Batman for a while and why throughout your projects. How has the role changed for you, and how have you changed with the role?
Wow. The trick to doing Batman for me has been to keep it authentic, to keep it fresh, and so in that sense, he hasn't changed. The challenge has been to have it remain new each time. And I think being a theater actor, when you do a show 8 times a week and every night has to be new, that serviced me in playing this role for so long. He hasn't really changed. The challenge has been to keep him authentic, to keep him true to what I found 27 years ago, and not have it get stale. And that's been challenging, I got to tell you.
What have you any like?
Well, one way I do it is by just Bruce Timm will tell you, I'm a bad boy in the booth. I'm a bad boy in the booth. I like to cause trouble because it gets people laughing, and if you get people laughing, it shakes them up. You know what I mean? And it makes them. Then you settle down and you give a fresh performance. Whereas if you're all being very, very serious and buttoned up all the time, everything gets kind of, tight. So Mark loves working with me because I'm a bad boy, and he likes to be a bad boy. So the two of us together, Andrea said we're like, 12-year-olds when they get us in the room together. She just can't control us. But it's great because you come up with new ideas. Keep it fresh.
What makes Batman true or authentic?
The fact that everything about him is rooted in that moment that his parents died. That was his Waterloo. That was he died. Bruce Wayne died that day. And his only way of surviving that pain was to become this other thing. So that Bruce Wayne, to me, is a performance for the world. He became that. That's how I've approached it, and it's really worked for me to do it that way. So.
And I just want to thank you for again showing and coming and talking with us.
Sure.
Actually, I'm here with my brothers, the 4 of us.
But you're not brothers.
Yeah, all 4 of us, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
I would never have known.
No problem.
And one of the reasons we're even like here in the press thing is because we were so inspired by you as kids. And
oh, thank you.
We were like the generation that you inspired with Batman. And what makes you think why is it has such longevity with audiences?
Because he's so noble. You know what I mean? His motives are so pure. He has no superpowers. He's the only superhero with no superpowers. He only has his heart and his mind and his goodness. He's so good. That's the challenge in The Killing Joke.
Yeah.
Can anyone be pushed so far that they become evil? Even Batman. And at the end, it's left hanging. It's up to you to decide. Was he pushed that far? Because that's what we love about him so much. Life has never done that. And especially with young people, I meet so many young people at Comic-Cons who've had difficult childhoods. People have rough lives. People forget how rough a lot of childhoods are. And they found inspiration in this character and a safe harbor in this character, a safe place to go to. Often people come up to me at Comic-Con and say, "Can I hug you? I just want to hug you because you were my best friend when I was 8, and you got me through." A guy in Philadelphia started crying. He said, "My father died when I was 9, but you were there for me." That's amazing to be a part of that in people's lives. It's amazing.
So earlier this year, we had Susan Eisenberg on our podcast, and we talked about, you may have heard of this, the jail reunion, to bring like the entire cast back for
It'd be great.
either a film or a TV show.
Everybody would love to do
Since
that.
there's the DC streaming service now, do you think that's a possibility?
They're always looking for new content, so I would hope so. but I haven't actually heard anything about it happening. Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Sure, guys.
Batman the Animated Series so special from all your works that you've done?
That's a loaded question. Well, it was my first show as a producer, so it's special to me because of that. It was the first show that I actually got to have that much creative control over, or creative, contribution to. So that was awesome. Also, everything I've done professionally since then is because of what we did on Batman. So, like I said, I can only speak to my own personal, experience, and that's what it meant to me.
You said it was your first time as a producer on the show, and obviously now you've had significantly more experience with the character animation. Looking back, it's a great show, but is there anything you would do differently with all the knowledge you have now?
I would. Hard to say. I mean, one of the things that bugs me about it is that we hit the ground running. We had an order for 65 episodes. That's a lot of shows. Nowadays, nobody does 65 episodes right out of the gate. It's like 13 or 26 maybe, and then maybe we'll do some more after that. But we knew we were going to do 65 straight up. So that's just a lot, and we couldn't hardly wrap our head around it. So we realized early on that it was really hard to keep the quality up on every single episode. So we made a conscious decision to kind of really focus on the ones that we thought had the most potential, and we would really pour all of our resources into that as much as possible. And we occasionally get a script that was like, we say, okay, we'll do whatever. We'll do whatever we can with it, but we're not going to kill ourselves for it. I regret that. I wish there was other episodes that we had fought harder to, at the script level, to bring them up to be as good as the best of the shows, and not just as the middle of the road. So that's the one thing I would do different. And even though we were hard on our writers back then, I would be harder. I would be harder on them even still. Just say, let's try harder to make these shows great.
Obviously, not going to ask which episode, so
you're not going to.
A really trashy question to ask.
But can I ask what your favorite episodes have been?
There's too many. There's just too many. I love all across the board. I love starting with On Leather Wings. It's still one of my favorites. Over the Edge is a favorite. Chemistry, Home and Garden, or House and Garden. Two-Face Part 1, Feet of Clay Part 2. There's just a ton of them.
We're in the world of cinematic universes now. Everyone's kind of making their own, building their own world, and you kind of had built your own world too with 4, 5, 6 series. How was that like, and when did that come in your head that let's just combine everything? Was it during Superman or
Well, when we did the Superman show and we did the first crossover episode with Batman, we knew we had to kind of use our Batman. We didn't want to come up with a new Batman for that, and you can't get better than Kevin Conroy, right? So that was the first combination of it. And when we did the Justice League show, again, there was not even a thought of making that a completely separate universe. We knew it was going to be a somewhat of a continuation of Batman and Superman. Weirdly enough, we did not really want to, even though in our own heads we knew it was a continuation, we didn't want to presume that somebody who was watching Justice League had followed all the other two series as well. So we didn't really embrace the continuity of it until we did Justice League Unlimited, and that's kind of when we really started going backwards and saying, let's just knit this all into one huge saga. So, yeah.
So earlier this year we had Susan Eisenberg on our podcast, and we had a great discussion about this fan movement to bring Justice League back with the original cast in either a film or a TV format. Mm-hmm. With the new DC streaming service, is that a possibility?
I would say it's a possibility. I mean, without trying to set the internet on fire or anything. I mean, there's nothing directly in the works along those lines, but it's certainly a possibility.
Would that be something you'd like to come back to?
I'd be nervous about doing it. Frankly, It was a special moment in time. It was a lot of the stars were in alignment. I had just the right cast. I had just the right writers. Unfortunately, Dwayne McDuffie, my dear friend Dwayne McDuffie, has died a couple years ago. So it'd be really hard to do the show without somebody of his caliber. And Dwayne McDuffies don't grow on trees, So I'd be very leery about going back to it. But it's not to say never say never.
Sorry. You mentioned before about how many episodes you had going into it, but now it seems like animated action shows, they don't survive for very long. There have been a lot of DC shows recently which would get one season and then swiftly cast aside. Why do you think the landscape has changed so much for animated action?
It's just the landscape is changing even as we speak. It's like the ground is moving under our feet. You know, it's like especially with streaming and things like that. It's everything's just changing constantly. It's like you guys all know this is nothing new. It's like, could you guys have guessed that 10 years ago there would be so many great television shows on all these different platforms? You never would have imagined it, right? But and will it last forever? I don't know. It seems like to me it's not sustainable. It's like eventually there's going to have to be a course correction. There's going to have to be so we'll see. Right now, yeah, streaming is great. There's a lot of great shows being made, but there's you got all these shows to make, and there's this much talent to make all these shows. So everybody's getting spread really, really thin. So it's just tough. It's tough right now.
Are there any DC characters that you haven't necessarily done something on that you would want to do in the future?
Yes, and I'm not going to tell you which ones because I may do them someday.
Follow up on. Sorry.
And now on the deluxe edition, as far as color between the original and the redesign, there's a way to try to make them align more?
I didn't have anything to do with the remastering, so I don't know. I doubt it. The different looks of the two shows is pretty drastic, so I wouldn't imagine they would try to make them look more like each other. I mean, one of the things I really like, because I went back, is I don't watch the old shows very often, but just recently I had occasion to watch some of the old Batman shows, and I was impressed by kind of how really old they look. They don't just look like they're from the 90s, they look like they're from the 1940s. They look really, really old, which I think is really cool. But then the revamp episodes don't look quite as old-timey as that. For one reason, we updated the fashions a little bit. We didn't, we weren't rigidly, making sure that everything had a 1940s look to it. But the city still looked the same, but a lot of the props and vehicles look different, and like I said, the costuming did. But it still has a really pleasing look to it. It's just different. It's just really apples and oranges. So, but like I said, I had nothing to do with the remastering, so it's going to be whatever it looks like. It's going to be. I'm going to see it at the same time you guys are. So.
I mean, your track record speaks for itself, and your resume also speaks for itself. Do you have any interest in jumping to the live action side, doing some DC stuff?
Very little.
Very little?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of pressure. I mean,
But it's also just you yourself.
okay. You guys know what it's like, right? Anytime a movie comes out, people are they're criticizing it before it even gets made, even before pictures of it come out. And then when the pictures come out, God knows people are going to say, "Oh, she's not smiling enough."
Yeah.
It's like, it's just like, I don't know if I would want to get into that arena. So.
Have you seen the live action stuff? And what do you think about it?
I think he's wrapping me up, so I can't answer that question.
Thank you.
Thanks, just in time.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
What?
I like your jacket.
Thank you.
Hi, guys.
So why do you think Batman the Animated Series has stood the test of time?
Because it's awesome.
It is.
It's so beautiful. Now when you see it digitally remastered, you're like, wow, it really is beautiful. Now it's even more beautiful. I love that film noir feel to it. I love how real it is. It's an authentic piece of what Batman would look like. When you look at the comic and you look at the show, you're like, oh yeah, that's it. That's what people say to us online. Every time I read a comic, I hear you and Kevin Conroy. It just all fits in together so well.
You played a lot of characters in the Batman universe. Do you prefer playing heroes or villains?
I get asked that a lot, and I put on my Twitter once a picture of Harley and Batgirl side by side, and I said, you think you have an identity crisis? And it's always fun to play with that girl for sure, and I love Harley so much. But there's also so much nostalgia for me. When I see Batgirl in a script, I get really happy too. And I really can't pick. I love doing both of them so much.
Do you relate to one more than the other? Or?
I mean, probably my personality is more Batgirl-like. I'm pretty even-tempered, even when I'm dealing with a conflict resolution situation, pretty even-tempered. But Harley is like my therapy. Like, I go in and scream that shit out, and it's like so fun to just be her for a few hours and dive into that psyche. So I have so much fun with both. I couldn't pick if you asked me to. If you said today you could only play one, that'd be tough.
What's your approach to the character of Batgirl, especially when you first got into it? Like, what was in your mindset? Like, how do I approach the character?
Well, I was already a fan of the comics, of the series, of any incarnation of Batman, and so I was freaking out when I first found out about the audition. And then the audition room itself was like completely daunting. It was A-list celebrities. It was A-list voiceover celebrities. It was an amazing room, and I was new to town. I had moved from Toronto, and it's the only show I do that's my own voice, and so they liked that. And for me, that show was all about the acting beats. We would read the scripts and see where we were going, where we were coming from, and then just imagine all those moments in our minds and then bring it forth with our voices.
Were there any moments or scenes that you found difficult to record as an actor? Yeah.
I mean, looking back when Batgirl died, maybe that was pretty daunting. But it wasn't a challenging time per se. It was a magical time. Like, I would pinch myself every day sitting next to Conroy and Hamill, looking at Arlene Sorkin and Ephraim Zimbalist. I was like, I could die tomorrow. That's just cool. We got this, you know. It was fun.
You talked about voicing Harley Quinn being so therapeutic. Do you have a favorite line? Because you've portrayed her in so many different things.
Oh my gosh. Well, my favorite line for her is one that Arlene said.
Okay.
So it's not mine, but I use that to tap into her brilliance. And it was the after, you know, you think after living with Mr. J all this time, I'd be used to a little pain. That one. I just love that line so much. I've never got to say it, so.
And how did working on this show influence the rest of your career?
Well, you know, like I said, I just moved here from Toronto, and I had a very successful career in Toronto, including on camera and theater, and over 20 animated series that were American co-production. But still, when I first moved here, they didn't know who I was, and I was pretty broke for the first 2 years. 3 eviction notice broke. And Marcia Goodman, who gave me my first job at 13 Hello Kitty, called me and said, will you come do this new Gadget series, Gadget Heather? I said, yes! She really saved my life in LA. And then shortly after that, I booked Powerpuff Girls and Batgirl and 100 episodes of 101 Dalmatians all at the same time. And people were like, who is this girl? So really, that time in my life opened the doors for this extraordinary career that I've had.
What's the difference between working on a series like this than doing the video games? You're working with the same cast, but it's what's the difference in like the style?
So typically when you're doing a video game, you're by yourself. This was a full cast record show, so we really got to play off each other, which is always beneficial. I mean, you'll hear an actor go, we gotta get out of here, and you might go, okay, to make fun of it, and if you didn't know that person said it that way, you wouldn't respond that way. So acting is, of course, tremendously about listening, and it's such a gift to have the other actors in the room. Now, when you're doing a video game, you might have 10,000 lines, so it doesn't make sense to wait for everyone, but it's not quite as fun creatively. Also, you get really tired, even if you're not doing 1,000 death sounds, to just speak yourself for 4 hours straight. It can be exhausting, but it's still, from an acting standpoint, the same thing. You're still imagining yourself in all these moments. When the Joker died in Arkham Knight, I think it was, I cried doing that record. I mean, I felt her emotion.
You talked about what landing the role of Batgirl meant to you, but what do you think the show got so right about the character?
Well, I think it got right, the same thing it got right about every character, was the humanity. You know, even the villains you feel sorry for because you know their struggles and their origin stories, and you feel the humanity of the worst possible criminals. And I think there was an authenticity to this show that's unmistakable, and you feel like you're in these moments with these people, like they could be your friend. Like, I want to hang out with Batgirl, and maybe not the Joker, maybe some days, but I just think they got the humanity element right, and the realistic moments right. Like, my favorite iterations of Batman is always the dark ones and this film noir look, and how pivotal all the stories are. It's like, it's such an extraordinary world, so I think that translated.
What are your favorite episodes of the series?
Girls' Night Out is my favorite episode. It's so much fun to, you know, be a kick-ass chick with Supergirl and run around and save the day, and then go have like a silly moment where we're doing each other's hair or whatever it was. I just love that. Anytime we get to empower young women, also young boys looking up and seeing these strong chicks, it's a good thing.
And as far as your Batgirl, having Batman and you being the Batman and instead of Batman and Robin, how do you feel the camaraderie Kevin. Can you talk about that? And
Yeah, I
being
mean, we always had that. Kevin's a very giving actor, and I never felt like I was the new kid in LA beside him, or Hamill. Hamill is like the nicest guy you would ever want to meet. It was a great time. It was a great time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
come with me.
Good.
Who'd like to go first?
You can go. You can start it off.
All right. So I guess I'll double down with the question I believe you asked. The show has received a lot of love over the years, and understandably so. It came from a different era of shows that could actually stay in the air for a while and have time to grow. But Batman's no stranger to the spotlight. There have been many incarnations of the character since then. Why do you think this version of Batman, and of course Robin, have stood the test of time and are still so beloved?
Several reasons. Number one, writing. The writing is outstanding. The writing is like what people love about comic books. People love comic books because comic books create three-dimensional characters with backstories. Everybody in our show, whether they were a villain or a hero, everybody had a backstory, everybody had a reason for what they did, everyone had a psychology for what they did, and people can relate to that because they want to see real people. And that's what has, and that's true of any art, any play, any movie, anything which speaks to that and creates real three-dimensional people stands the test of time.
What have been your favorite episodes and moments?
Old Wounds is my favorite episode because I got to play Robin and Nightwing in that episode. And it was Robin in the flashbacks and Nightwing in the present. And Sub-Zero, I think it's just an incredible animated film. It just recently got re-released, remastered. And then there's two episodes that I did with the Riddler, which I really like because I love working with John Glover. But in the writing, Robin really made a transition there. He started to become his own man and make his own decisions. And I think in one of them, which is called If You're So Smart, Why Aren't You Rich? He actually solves the problem. You know, they'd have both been killed if it wasn't for Robin solving the problem. And up to there in the show, it really wasn't, he didn't have that kind of relationship. He would be, what are we going to do, Batman? You know, and here he's like, he figures it out. He knows what he's going to do.
You recently reprised the role as Dick Grayson for Batman and Harley Quinn. I know the crazy thing is, after 25 years, like, the voice didn't change. Like, it sounded just like the series. So what's your method when you're approaching the character, even this many years later?
Well, that's the thing, you know, when we do these conventions, and it's so great because a lot of us do it together. So I do a lot of them with Kevin. I do a lot of them with Diane. Now I'm doing a lot more with Tara. And when we're there, we look at each other and we say, wow, we all have the same voice. You know, why aren't they doing the show again? I don't know. Because we're all here, we all have the same voice, we're all ready, you know. And we're not like preserving ourselves in any particular way. We just are blessed that we have the same instrument that we had, you know, 30 years ago.
Right. So you talk about the writing and just how important that was back then. What do you feel like 25 years later, what's relevant about the story now? How is that really applied to, not even just Batman today, but just animation today, just the whole narrative around it?
Well, with the exception of, I'd say, the Joker, because you never really know what his real story is, you know, and he has lots of versions that he'll tell you, right? All of the villains have really profound reasons for doing what they're doing. And they're bad guys, and they deserve to be put away in Arkham Asylum. They're crazy. But they all have reasons. So I think it says that, you know, the world isn't just good guys and bad guys. That there are shades of... And Batman himself, you know, does some bad things. And Robin calls him on it. And that's one of the reasons Robin goes off and becomes a Nightwing, because he can't sanction some of the things Batman does to be the vigilante he is. So I'd say there's a lot of shades of gray in our world, even though in our world we have clear-cut villains, but most people aren't clear-cut villains.
Do you have a favorite line? Because you talked about Kevin before everyone knows his famous line in the Scarecrow episode, but what about...
My favorite line is two words, which is, things change. It's my favorite line, because that says it all.
Now with Robin as a character, I know a lot of fans have struggled with him. as the comics were bringing the Batman family back in the late 80s, how does it feel to bring Robin and the Batman family back to the masses? Everyone see that Robin and Nightwing are viable characters.
No, it's great because when they did the first Warner Brothers live action, he was very alone and very dark, brooding character. That's what they wanted. And I think that's what they wanted in our show first too. Him being very much a loner, being very brooding, in a very sort of dark place. They didn't even have plans to bring. I did the pilot episode, but I don't think they had plans to bring him in as an integral part of the show. So I think people, it's just so much of that you could take, the dark brooding guy. We need someone to relieve it. And it's very, very important that they're both in it and that they're both together.
Were there any moments that you ever found difficult to record?
Not in this show, but I did Arkham Knight, the game, where I played Dr. Man-Bat. Doctor, help me out here.
Langstrom.
Thank you. Kirk Langstrom. And the scene where he realizes he's killed his daughter, that was really, I've never had an emotional moment in the booth like that before. And when it was done, everybody was kind of like, all right, we need to all take a break. So that was very hard.
Is there anything more on the way, like in terms of reprising role again?
You know, they don't tell me anything. I'm the last person to know. Actors are the last people to know. They said I had no idea that Batman and Harley Quinn was in the works, that it was being considered, storyboarded, written. I just got a call one day and said, "Are you available?" And I think they gave me like a month notice. I said, "You mean to play Nightwing again?" Hell yeah! So that's it.
So is Grayson still your favorite Robin, or have you shifted towards Jason
please.
or Damian?
Oh, come on!
Or Tim?
Don't even go there. Don't even say those names.
They're all great. They're all great. In their own ways.
No. Dick Grayson is.
The rivalry is real.
I have to stick with my Dick Grayson.
Fair
All
enough.
right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I'm bringing you.
I guess I'll start it off. Like, how does it feel, like 25 years later, to have this series still be in the hearts of so many fans?
It's a unique experience. Again, having a career that's been nothing but animation and related to the comics. This is a very special series, obviously. The fact that it lasted this long, the fact that fans are still as passionate about it as they ever were, is just a unique experience. No one could have predicted it at the time we were making it. We knew we loved it, we enjoyed it, had no idea that it would have this success, especially beyond our generation of producing the show. But for the fans that grew up on it and have introduced it to their kids, and helped us to be part of the Batman legacy from its beginnings, it's just a unique and special, very privileged experience.
What do you think made it so enduring?
The timelessness of the content itself, the preservation of the integrity of the character and the original intention of the character and the stories, and again, pure passion that went into making it. I think as I grew up with classic Looney Tunes, they were just always available to me, and I learned to appreciate them from my own childhood entertainment, grew to understand what went into making them, and certainly the creators of those shorts became my heroes. So to have experienced that for myself, I can relate now to a Batman fan base that had a similar experience growing up. It's different to relate to this series the way I related to Looney Tunes, because that was my childhood. But now I'm, as I get older, as I experience more, get to meet a lot of the fans and hear what they love about it. It definitely has a comparison to what my experience was as a kid.
This box set is obviously a celebration of the show. It's a great show. It deserves all the praise that it receives. But looking back on it, if you could do anything differently, would you?
I don't know that I would change anything that we did. Having the luxury of living through a generation of technology that's allowed production to become more efficient and quality to be much more reasonable to maintain. I'd love to be able to fix the things that we didn't have time for, that weren't even possible at the time we were making the show, because a lot of the challenges we had with the actual physical production, so much of that would be made so much easier these days because technology has allowed a lot of the handmade aspects of it to be perfected with the digital assistance. So that's probably the only thing, but the making of the show, again, I enjoyed everything we did with it. I think everybody, by the time we got through that first 65 episodes, I think we had sort of worked out all the bugs and figured that we had a pretty good take on the direction of the characters and how to handle any situation we got from story.
Do you have any examples of the technological constraints or something that you wish you had?
Yeah, even the nature of the design of the show, the overall dark quality of the show was a challenge, because under traditional camera, which this show was traditionally made up until the last 20 episodes were digitally edited, but everything else was traditional film. So the limitations of animation all the way back to the days of Gertie, the dinosaur. Once you pile layer on layer of cells, the density changes the quality of the first level, which is usually the background. So a lot of the density would be changed. You would have perfection of a character blending into a background without being seamless. You wouldn't see a lot of the dirt that even though they cleaned up for the box set, it's still there are still elements to it where the Batman character isn't totally black against the background when it was intended to be a mesh, and we did that as much as we could, but that's been eliminated by the fact that digitally you can have 100 layers and you wouldn't know the difference. So that would help, and certainly the quality of retakes, which we usually are limited by having to go back and reanimate scenes that may not be fluid or have bumps in the animation. Now we can literally request all the animation back digitally, and we can retime the action in camera, which you don't have to spend as much time or money trying to get it right again. So it would just make efficiency. You'd be able to do it cost effectively, but also the quality we would be able to perfect to the point where you can practically see no retakes at all in the final product. So that would be nice, but it's not going to happen for this series as it exists, but maybe going forward, be able to incorporate that in.
You're talking about the type. Oh, sorry. Wait. Was that one more question?
Yeah, one more question.
I'm sorry, you didn't get a chance to ask. I should have. Would you like to ask? I already asked.
How does it feel having being the definitive and sort of comparable to the Fleischer Superman cartoon, doing the Batman series like that?
I can only accept with humble and great appreciation to have been part of it. We had no anticipation that this was going to be the outcome 25 years later. So to be part of that team it's just a special and unique experience, and we hope everything we do since the series lives up in some way to the integrity of our career, because it was a unique experience to launch a career. So just grateful.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. I'll bring some.
Didn't I just see you somewhere? No?
No, I'm a very generic-looking white
You're
guy.
a generic?
Yeah,
I'm a generic-looking white woman, so I understand completely. Hello, everybody.
So how are you similar to your character?
Oh, not at all. I mean, not at all. First of all, she's incredibly... She's got this body, which I've never had in my life, thank you. That kind of body. She's very sensual, very sexual, and very devious, manipulative, and I am none of those things. I'm intelligent, though, and she is too.
How do you feel like, go ahead.
So I guess with that difference in mind, how did that help you to play it?
Oh, it didn't help me at all. It's called acting. I mean that. It's like I looked at the thing, and I've been doing voiceovers for a good 15 years by then. And you look at a script when you're a voice actor, and you hear a voice in your head that wants to be used for these particular lines. It's just a thing, And I went, okay, good. And then I found the voice. That's how it is. But it was a mixture of a voice I used in my cosmetic commercials for perfumes and lipsticks and things like that. and then a voice that I used for narrating a show about biomedical breakthroughs. It's a combination of the two, and it created the voice. That was it.
So because you're so different, did you have fun kind of embracing that
The
evil
best
side?
time. It's always wonderful to create a villain because there's lots of different layers to their personalities. Nobody's just evil. They all think that what they think is correct. That's their view. And her evilness allowed her to do all kinds of really devious, awful things to people with vines and poisons and all of these things. So I had the best time. Please. I'm not like that at all.
Do you find yourself sharing like the show and your episodes to like family members?
Oh yes, in fact the best one was when my grandchildren found that they were 4 and 6 at the time, just recently. And you're on a cartoon, Grandma? I said, yeah. My little one, she was 5. She said, we have to watch. I said, well, it's probably a little bit, no, it's okay, Grandma, we have to watch. So I showed her Harley and Ivy. And she watched it, and she looked up and she said, Grandma, she's not very nice, is she? And I said, no, she's not. She's really mean, and I loved playing her. So it was fun.
What have been your favorite episodes and moments?
For that, I think Home and Garden, which is about Batman being convinced that Poison Ivy has turned over a new leaf because she has a wonderful, loving husband and several children. And she's very happy at home, contented with this. But then, of course, at the end, it turns out that they're all plant pods. But you see the longing in her to have, if only she'd been a different person, she might have had a home and a husband and children. But life didn't work out that way. Yeah?
So do you also, let's say Harley and Batman together, do you feel that they're a better couple than Batman and Catwoman, just from a personal standpoint?
Harley or Poison Ivy?
Oh, sorry, Poison Ivy, excuse me, Poison Ivy and Batman.
I don't actually think of, isn't that interesting? I can't see Batman and Poison Ivy as being able to be in the same room for more than 5 minutes without trying to kill us.
What about if she possessed them?
Well, that's easily handled, isn't it? Then it's not reality. But in truth, they're equally strong characters, aren't they? They really are. And they would spit at each other, I imagine, quite a lot. Yeah.
Did you ever have a scene or line that became difficult to record?
No, I love acting. I love it. There's nothing that I don't want to do when I'm given the opportunity to do it. Except I don't like being bored. That's all. So it's been a nice life.
Why do you think the series has stood the test of time so well?
Because I think it's animation, the shadows, the darkness, the almost Germanic influence of it makes it a work of art. I really do. And also that wonderful revolving group of bad guys, fun people, really fun. Yeah. Anything else?
How have your convention experiences been?
Oh, I love them. I love meeting the fans. I love it. I didn't know what to expect when I first started doing it. It's only been about 2 years. And I went, okay, I'm going to meet these people that like to dress up, and I don't know what's going to happen. I've had a lovely, lovely, wonderful, warm time. I really have. It's been great. Yeah. Anything else?
Last question for me, I guess. What makes you come back to this role when you think about it? Compared to all your roles, what makes Poison Ivy stand out?
The joy that I had playing her, I guess, And there was significant, the writers wrote some really good, interesting layers for her character, as I said, So, and as time went on, they wrote more complex scripts for her. I was honored because they knew I could handle it. Last question, one more.
I've already asked a few.
Yeah, that's How would you pitch this show to people in the younger generation who might not have been around for the original?
Well, I would just say watch it. I mean, start with it, and if it turns you on, that sounds great. I don't think I would. How would I? No, I don't think you have to pitch to young kids to say, "Hi, I'm in a cartoon. Watch it." They'll go, "Okay," and that's kind of thing. Yeah. All right. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Okay. Now we're moving around again.
It's Dr. Kevin Conroy, sick, man. Put that interview up on YouTube, and we'll get a picture out soon as well, Twitter. Pretty sick, talking to a childhood hero, right?
Yep. It was awesome, man. You know me, I love Batman series. My favorite incarnation, talking to him was just amazing.
Kevin Conroy, man, that was some crazy, crazy shit. Every time he talked, every time we heard his voice, it was just a crazy, crazy thing.